You want to know how you know Bleach 1000 Year Blood War is it? It's freaking fantastic. I think this episode is like 40% recap or something like that, but I don't care. It's been how long since we watched Bleach again? That's just fuzzy on my brain to begin with, so you could probably just play the whole last episode and I've been like, shit, I didn't remember most of this. But no, like, the new stuff mixed in with how they ended, like, they ended the second cour insane. And to come into this episode and see the Almighty, I mean, the Almighty, I don't even know what to expect from it, but the Almighty is about to destroy everything. I mean, quite literally, it's like, hey, Ichiko, go save the soul. He's already stabbed. Like, what do you want us to do at that point? You have Sindamaru, who, I mean, her Bankai is just fantastic. Like, just watching that whole scene, it's just brilliant. But goddamn it, Ishita, why'd you have to skewer our girl like that? She deserved better. The blowing apart, though, of our boy, like, you're like, yeah, okay, he's dead. Like, you just assume everyone's gonna die. And our boy coming up there says the name, and he pops up like Father Christmas saying, psych, bitch, Christmas ain't canceled just yet. Bleach is back. I have those full live reactions over on Patreon if you want to see my full and good thought to any of these Bleach episodes over there exclusively. Been very excited for the return of this. It just kind of feels like a nice trend that, you know, you just end the year with a good Bleach arc. And it's kind of crazy when you think of how long the gaps was between, you know, when it went on an indefinite hiatus thinking you'd never see the last arc animated to here we are now. But 1000 Year Blood War, I mean, it's so interesting because Bleach, it has a formula that's almost forgotten these days, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but I do think Bleach handles it fairly well. Like, at the end of the day, battle shonens back in the day were notorious for having certain tropes and trends, like characters standing around being like, haha, this is why I'm still alive, and now I'ma do this. And then they do that, and then they say, aha, you thought that would kill me, but this is why I'm alive. That used to be a very common trend, and you can't deny the fact that even in this episode, they kind of do exactly that, especially with the Quincy King. But I love the fact that this episode just comes back swinging. It just says, you know what, we're not going to waste time, even if a lot of that's recap. I didn't recently watch the last episode or the last arc. I haven't watched 1000 Year Blood War since it ended. So it's kind of like, it in a way felt all new. It took me a bit to even realize that most of this was recap, I gotta be honest. And you can call me a show, you can call me a fanboy, it doesn't matter. I mean, Bleach for me, like, I didn't grow up watching Bleach. I literally binge read the manga up to this arc when it was announced that they were coming back for more. So I don't have loyalty to this show because I watched or read it for years. It's just I legitimately enjoyed it. I think it does a lot of the old school tropes and trends quite well. And just certain moments are just so bonkers. Like having our girl come in and just like, it's such nightmare fuel mixed with his beauty. Just seeing that, it just like, my favorite part is like when the cloth peels down on the one dude and there's like spikes on each of the claws and it just like skewers. It's like a guillotine, man. It's so nasty. One of them gets done in like it's quicksand. It all turns to sand and just covers you up. Just such creativity in terms of such an elegant, like having a loom of all things just brutally savage and kill you is just, you don't think it's possible, but then Bleach shows you why it is possible. But I mean, just seeing the Almighty, I mean, that's a name that was thrown around. I remember when I was covering, I think the first cour. Like, people are like, when the Almighty pops up, you aren't gonna be ready. And it's like, imagine in any other show, hell, even in any other Bleach arc, what our boy was doing. Now, it's kind of funny, because on one hand, you got this Santa Claus-looking guy with a giant paintbrush having a song and dance. I mean, that is ridiculous. But it's also one of the better songs I've heard in a little bit. I don't know what it is. Maybe it just reminds me of like, hey, you know what? Imagine going to a family dinner and one of your relatives gets a little too tipsy and they start singing. That's kind of the vibe he was giving me. But honestly, the song was pleasant to listen to. I thought he had a decent voice. But like everything he was doing, the way he was painting him black and just, he was him. This would be a W and a victory moment in any other arc, you think. And then our boy decides to open his eyes, and he explains that, you know, he had to keep his eyes shut for about 9 years. Otherwise, he'd be a little too unstable, and now here's him. And then just that explosion. It's like, yep, you totally expect that. But it's the fact that when our boy comes up, and he's like, hey, I hear a voice, and then he says it, and he just... It should be way more horrifying, but the way he just goes... and just pops into it. He's like, okay, Ichiko, my boy, you take care of that. Now, granted, in his defense, he's like, hey, I just got brought back. My power, it's going to take a bit to get here, so I can't physically fight. I believe that. But it's hard to not argue that it's kind of like, damn, I just got blown apart. I don't want to fight that. My boy, it's now up to you. It's kind of like passing the workload over to the intern, man. Like, that's kind of how it felt. But granted, we all know our boy is going to be the signature piece that's going to give us that W. But it is kind of crazy. It's like, hey, it's up to you. Go protect the Soul King, and then the episode ends with the stat. Like, what do you do with that, right? Like, what are we supposed to do? But you definitely know Bleach is back. Now, I didn't grow up watching the Bleach anime, but all I know is that, like with a lot of those shows from the time, whether a Naruto, whether a One Piece, a lot of it was just like every new episode you had like 10 minutes a new episode, and then the rest was a recap. But I think it kind of works in this case. I mean, I think they did spice in some new scenes as well, not just completely recap. But if it was, I mean, it's been long enough that just watching, and it almost in a weird way, it kind of felt like there was supposed to be one extra episode before they ended the season, and maybe like this is just always what they wanted to present it as. I don't know. Either way, I don't think they're wasting episodes. I don't think they're wasting the viewers' time. We know we're getting the arc and adaptation we deserve here, and it's just very interesting, especially when you see some of the action. Like, it's incredible to see how it almost feels like it's still a product of the time, like 10 years ago, of how a show like this would be animated. But at the same time, sometimes I look at what they're doing, I'm like, huh, that actually kind of gives me similar vibes to how Ufotable would animate a Demon Slayer sequence, but clearly with the Bleach art direction. And it's really cool to see how the show pops out, but, you know, Bleach is back. It's great. It was fun. It was exciting. Maybe if I would have only had a 3-month gap, maybe I would have been a little more salty that apparently a lot of this was recap, but they gave me enough of a gap that I remember how it ended last season, or last cour, but it's not like I have it crisp on my mind, so it's like, it just functioned well for me. Maybe some people will be disappointed, maybe other people will just be like me, be like, damn, I'm just glad back to watch Bleach. From what I hear, next episode is supposed to be absolutely insane, which is exciting, because I don't think this cour is going to slow down at all. But I guess time will tell. Let me know what you thought of the return of Bleach. What did you think, and how screwed do you think the characters are? Because I think they're definitely absolutely screwed, at least for the foreseeable future. Thoughts down below, leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got John Kelly, Christian D. Ruffy, Charlotte, La Sing Ming, Sofrid, Matt Barker, and we also have Cal853. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and you all have a good one.